If you're new here, my name's Forrest. I'm a bike shop manager and mechanic. Today I'm going to be sharing my 13 brutal truths about buying an electric bike. My first controversial point I'd like to talk about is buying an electric bike directly from your local bike shop. Some might think it's easier to buy e-bikes online, and although the cheaper price is enticing, oftentimes they are not as good of quality as what you can get straight off the floor from your local bike shop, and it's always good to support local businesses. You'll often find the people there that work at the bike shop know how to service the electric bikes as well. Buying from your local bike shop can be really beneficial in regards to having service work done. A lot of bike shops you may find can do service work on e-bikes, but it has to be brands that they sell due to insurance purposes. Oftentimes electric bikes are correlated with not getting as much exercise, and I'm not sure I believe that. We can argue about it in the comments. Although maybe not having to try as hard initially, I think it could be good for you, covering a little bit longer distance. As long as you're using a pedal assist bike and not just using the throttle the whole time, probably allows you to build a little bit more skill as well. Especially in like a mountain biking application, I can definitely see the advantage if you were just commuting to work and it didn't really matter, because in that regard you wouldn't really have to be worried about building any skill. On a lot of these trails you can do 5 more laps than you would be able to do on a normal bike. That kind of leads me to my next point, the weight. On a mountain bike in particular, the weight could be seen as a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing as if you're riding through a lot of rocks, it kind of keeps the wheels down with the motor. A lot of these mountain bike e-bikes can be between 50 and 60 pounds. And I think in a rock garden scenario, it's gonna keep those wheels planted on the ground. However, if you are jumping, it could be seen as maybe a bad thing. It's gonna be a little harder to get off the ground, a little more uncontrollable. Could be seen as an issue for those of us who have 2 bikes, one electric and one non, if you decide to switch back and forth between bikes to ride the same trail. I feel like a lot of people that I see who dislike e-bikes maybe just haven't ridden one themselves. I too used to be a little bit skeptical of electric bikes until I hopped on one. I can definitely see the appeal an electric bike might have, especially those who might not be able to ride their bikes as efficiently anymore, just in general. Anyone who has underlying health issues or maybe just wouldn't be able to ride their bike as efficiently in general but still wants to travel that far distance that they used to, an electric bike could really be good for someone like that. The next thing I really wanted to touch on about electric bikes is the cost of entry. What I mean by cost of entry is how much it can actually cost to get into a decent electric bike. Sure, there are plenty of options online that range from between $500 to $1,200, maybe even a little bit less. However, you're not really getting into a quality product at that point. If we're talking about mountain bike electric bikes, you're gonna wanna probably spend at least $2,500 to $3,000 to get into a bike that's worth keeping up with and actually doing the repair work on when something does go wrong. A lot of the bikes you do find online, they're kind of a one and done situation, and once something goes wrong, you're almost better off getting rid of it because it's gonna cost a lot to repair. Sometimes the time it can take to chat with these companies and their customer service programs, especially if they're overseas, can be just a little bit too much than it's really worth for a bike that you didn't pay that much for. If you buy through a local bike shop, they would be glad to help you out. I'm sure they can get all the service parts that you need if something does go wrong. A lot of these electric bikes from the factory come with a really good warranty, which is something that you avoid as well if you build one on your own. I've seen a whole lot of people in my comment section saying that they were able to build their own electric bike that gets incredible range and has really good parts for a really low cost. Maybe you were able to buy a hardtail mountain bike and you have the skills to put a motor and a battery on it. If you're getting into an electric bike for those reasons, you're willing to build one yourself, you could save quite a bit of money going that route. However, you're not gonna get the warranty. You're definitely not gonna be able to chat with your shop if anything goes wrong. If you do decide to go that route and build your own electric bike, you're gonna wanna make sure you can do most of the work yourself, as your local shop's probably not gonna be able to touch a lot of the motor and battery issues that could arise. When buying an electric bike, and I feel like this isn't something that's touched on most often, is you do have to take on definite added repair costs. And what I mean by added repair costs is when you add a motor and quite a bit of torque on the chain and cassette of your bike, it does tend to wear things out fairly quick. As long as you can keep up on drivetrain wear and regular maintenance of the bike, you should be pretty well off, especially if you have a tool to measure the chain stretch of your bike. However, if you're not doing that, I would take your bike into your local bike shop every 500 to 1,000 miles just so they can do a safety inspection on it. You really want to make sure you're not, burning through the brake pads and burning out your chain and your cassette. Things like that can get very costly if you have to replace all of them at the same time. Most of these e-bikes have a very high torque motor, And with all that extra weight and power, they burn through the wearable parts quite a bit quicker than your normal bikes. The next brutal truth I really wanted to touch on, not all online bike companies are necessarily good. And what I mean by that is you really have to check these companies. A lot of them offer products for a few weeks. They'll sell you a bike, they'll sell your buddies a bike, and after that, they're gone. As soon as they get everything sold, they're gone. They won't offer you any customer service. You're not gonna be able to get any repair parts for them, especially a year in advance when something does go wrong. You really wanna make sure you can hit someone up at least to get spare parts for it. My advice, if you're gonna buy an electric bike, just buy it from a company that's tried and true. If it sounds funky, looks funky, and rides funky, probably don't buy it. My only recommendation for getting into a cheaper electric bike, by cheaper I mean probably under the $1,000 mark, would be if you were gonna be commuting on it and you didn't care necessarily about quality. If it's just something you're getting into to ride to work and back and you know you're gonna beat on the thing constantly, then maybe go with the cheaper option. You just wanna really make sure you can keep up with the overall maintenance. Just make sure that you're mechanically inclined and can keep up with the overall maintenance once something does go wrong. Oftentimes cheaper bikes just require a lot more adjusting constantly. If you're okay with breaking out the wrenches maybe once a week just to give everything a check over, it could be completely fine. The next thing that I'll touch on, and oh boy, this is controversial, changing a flat tire on an electric bike. I can already hear the comments blowing up. Oh, Forrest, it's not that hard to change a fat tire e-bike flat, or an e-bike flat in general. I don't know what you're talking about, and I have to disagree. For those of you who maybe aren't comfortable with changing a flat tire, or you've only had to do it once or twice, I would definitely recommend bulking up the rear tire on your e-bike the best that you can to avoid flats. That would involve maybe putting in a substance like Flat Out or slime. I've heard a lot of people in my comment section putting Flat Out in, and that's what they recommend. That's awesome. Get you some Flat Out, put it in there. Maybe try a company like Tannis Armor. That's a foam insert that goes between the tube and tire wall and gives you a good amount of clearance to prevent flats from thorns and small nails on the road. A lot of folks who own fat tire e-bikes don't seem to be comfortable with me saying it's hard to change the tire. And that's great, but you get a couple people out there who maybe aren't as comfortable with changing a tire, and we need to explain that to them, that be ready for that situation. There is some wiring that you have to unplug. Yes, it could be considered simple, but you will need to bring a couple extra tools with you. By the way, if you're concerned about getting a flat on your electric bike, I've got a video, I'll link it up here at the top of the screen. Watch that video and it'll explain to you exactly how to change it. The short story and the gist of it is, it's a little trickier than your normal bike that could be a quick release. I would carry a 18 or a 19 millimeter wrench, as well as a 10 millimeter wrench, and maybe a tool to cut some zip ties, because there's probably a few around the motor wire on the rear axle. Also, obviously carry a spare inner tube. There does seem to be some controversy as well around changing a tube and what that actually requires. A couple people have suggested just bringing patches with you, because if you get a hole on a big e-bike tire, technically you could just pull the tube halfway out without taking the whole tire off and patch the tube from the outside, stuff it back in there and air it back up. More power to you to go that route. I find that patches work half the time, sometimes they don't. Try to fully fix the problem. If you have to, bring an extra tube in case the hole is a little bit too big to use a patch. If you can find out that it is a small hole, I would recommend just patching it and changing it when you get home. That'll make things much easier and quicker, and you won't be out on the side of the road nearly as long. If you're gonna be changing a front tire, those usually are fairly easy. You might need a 15 millimeter wrench in order to get that tire off, but same goes. A lot of people were suggesting in the comments, if you bring a patch with you and some tire levers, you don't even technically have to pull the tire off if it's just a small hole. You can pull half the tube out of the side of the tire wall, put a patch on there if you can identify the hole, stuff it back in there and air it on up, and you should be good to go. If it's too big of a hole though, I still would bring an extra inner tube. I feel like that stereotype still is out there that electric bike riders just aren't as respected as normal bike riders. I do ride a normal bike myself, as you guys have seen in the videos, but I think e-bikes are great for people who maybe wouldn't be getting out there regardless. Heck, I ride my electric bike after work just to save a little bit of extra time. I can still get a lap in on the trails. And I think we all need to really come together and realize we're all riding bikes and we're all out there for the same reason. And hopefully that's to get some exercise, and number two, to have some fun. I think the stereotypes around electric bikes always come from the people who maybe haven't ridden one yet and who really need to experience the fun of riding an electric bike. I used to be a normal bike rider, and I still am. I still get out there on my enduro bike every once in a while, or my road bike. However, on those days where I'm super tired just getting off work, now the time has changed here in California. It gets dark a lot sooner. I got to get out there on my e-bike to make it happen and still have fun. As I ride up this super steep hill and I'm checking out the sunset, I'd like to tell you guys, thank you so much for watching these videos. If you guys do enjoy this type of content, I love making it for you, and I'd like to do more. If you guys like content about bikes, make sure to click subscribe and click the notification bell in the drop-down menu so you don't miss when we upload every Wednesday. If you guys need any repair tips on electric bikes or bikes in general, I'm gonna link a video below as well as a drop-down bar somewhere up on the top of the screen. Go ahead and watch that video all the way through. It should answer a bunch of your repair tip questions. I know there's been so many in the comments below. As always, I really appreciate hearing from all you guys, listening and responding to all your comments below. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and we'll see you next week. Oh, also, YouTube is convinced that you want to watch this video right here. Go ahead and click it. You will not be disappointed.